morning, everyone, and happy Wednesday. We are so grateful that you're here. Thank you all for joining us on this fabulous day um, and webinar. We're really excited about the information that we're going to be talking about today and providing you with practical and real-life tools to overcoming mental obstacles that are currently plaguing our world. I'm Brianna, the founder of Vacation of the Mind. We're a mindfulness company dedicated to bringing oneness through wellness, offering workplace wellness programs and certifications and trainings. I'm honored to be here with our managing partner, Lisa Brazelton. Lisa has over 26 years of executive leadership and entrepreneurial experience. She believes in the field of human potential and has been in the mindfulness space and teaching emotional intelligence for over 20 years. Lisa, what are we talking about today?
Thanks, Brianna. I really want to talk about building the mental muscle through strengthening our resiliency. I think that our body reacts to the way that we think, we feel, and we act. And this is what we call the mental muscle.
Yes, it is. And good emotional health has awareness to both our thoughts, our feelings, our behaviors, how we learn to cope with stress and problems in a healthy way, both for the mind and the body.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'd love to just touch on, in mind-body medicine, the mind and body are actually not seen as separately functioning entities, but as one functioning unit. The mind and emotions are viewed as influencing the body, as the body in turn influences the mind and emotions. And there's some really cool research in this area that actually shows how the mind and emotions work hand in hand, and different parts of the body actually light up that they can measure on tests based on what's going on with a person's emotions in that. And so today, talking about mental resiliency, it's such an important time for all of us to have mental resiliency given what we're currently facing and some of the uncertainty that we have in our daily lives. um, Psychological resilience is defined as flexibility in response to changing situational demands and the ability to bounce back from negative emotional experiences. And so whether it's through stress or growth, the highly resilient have coping capabilities that allow them to be less challenged by trauma and challenging situations that they face in general.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this morning. Is this what is a coping capacity, right? You know, I've been in this, as you said, I've been in this industry for a very, very long time. Our society is just starting to embrace this mindfulness movement that, quite frankly, has been around for a really long time. And those who, have been practicing are really, they're now being challenged to put it into reality, right?
Yeah, we are.
And this, there is a discernment between intellectualizing and emotionalizing these different concepts and tools and practices. And so, and thinking about what we wanted to talk about this week, it really occurred to me that life is saying, okay, put your stuff to the test. And those of us who have been, and those of you who have been even just sticking your little toe in different practices, life is saying, okay, there are some real obstacles that are coming your way now, and it's through this exercising of the muscle are we able to see, how do we measure where we are, and what tools are that we've said are really good, i.e. meditation, breath work, and are we really using it? I mean, you and I've had this conversation where there are some people who are getting really caught up in anxiety and they're not practicing. And then there are those who are saying, you know what, I've got nothing to lose, I'm going to practice. And they notice such an exquisite difference between an anxiety and an anxious moment, and then a place of calm. And I can't stress more, the time in which I personally use it the most happens to be between 3 and 4 a.m., where I'm awake. Just suddenly, I'm just completely awake. And so, we're being asked to work this emotional, mental muscle more than ever. And gauging where our coping capacity is. But I want to take a step back for a second, because I've been in this industry for a long time, and over 20 years. I started a company back in the early 2000s, and we were really focused on how do we become the best version of ourselves through emotional intelligence and different leadership. Calling it leadership, it was really wellness. And I decided to take a stab a few years ago and define what mindfulness really is. And I'd like to read that. So I want to take a step back and just really define some of the words that we're using, because, mindfulness has just suddenly in the last few years have been such a buzzword, but I don't know if people really know what mindfulness is. So my shot at it is, mindfulness is a conscious state of being, of pure awareness in the present moment of reflection, clarity, and intention. It is listening without judgment, actively passive in the ebb and flow of life, in the exquisite silence, and in the ultimate realization that the universe, or life, always moves through us. And the definition was created really to have people contemplate that. It takes time. It's the exquisite silence, is the cognitive quiet that we talked about last week. The ebb and flow of life is both being what we're experiencing right now in the world, in our daily life, in our work life, in our home life. How can we listen to people and listen to ourselves without judging? And how do we actively but passively allow life to move through us as it dips and dives and turns? I also want to define coping capacity. So it's really a muscle. Again, it's a muscle to handle adversity, challenge, uncertainty, surprise, grief, anxiety, and discerning this fear-based response as a reaction, and expanding our capacity based in reflection. I'm going to say it again, okay? The coping capacity is our ability to really discern where we are handling adversity and challenge and uncertainty, grief, surprise, all the things that are going on in our lives, and see our fear-based reaction. And how do we take that and expand based on our reflection? And this is a test. This is a test. And the measure of our own litmus test, right? It's our own litmus test of where is life testing this muscle. And it's asking, right? This muscle is really being pushed for us to exercise it more. So I always say to people and clients, and we talk about this with our clients, use it yourself and take experiences that you've had in your past that have been very challenging to you, and see where you are today. Are you handling different situations better, worse? You only know for you in your life. And how does that reflect in people that are around you? For those of you who are leaders on this call, how is it that you are handling other people's stress? So I really encourage people to look at their own discernment of what are you reacting to based on current adversity, uncertainty, and where were you before? Are you gaining strength? Are you really pressing that mental muscle? Yeah.
I love that
That's
you,
a lot of information. So,
well, I love that you brought that in, Lisa, because that's really the way that we test our mental resiliency, is by seeing how we're progressing,
Yeah.
how we are taking in maybe a new situation in terms of what's currently happening, but it's not that much different from some of the stress that we have felt in the past based on a different environment, right? And so how the real test and the real truth of how you're developing that mental muscle is to see how you're able to respond and
Right.
what additional things are you able to take on or bring into your life
Yeah.
at that moment.
Right.
I love to do these experiments with myself, and I've talked about a couple of them on the call, just in moments of being stressed or overwhelmed or where I'm feeling other people's stress, utilizing some of these practices and seeing how I feel internally when I use those practices in the moment. And, I love that you're stressing that on this call, that you can actually take this and experiment with yourself and really test yourself to see how far you've grown, or does it really work?
Right. Right. And then taking that and expanding that out um, to a corporate culture. It's one thing to say, hey, you know what, we've got great tools for you. We've got a meditation room. You can have this app for yourself. Um, but is it really being tested? Is it really being exercised? And I can't stress enough, as being a leader of multiple companies, we are the conscious leaders, or we can choose to step into conscious leadership by being a living example of who we can be in the at our greatest capacity during the greatest adversities in our lives. I mean, let's face it, when it's a beautiful sunny day like it is right now in Chicago and yesterday, sometimes growth doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But but that measurement of who we are during adverse times, when we get upset, when we are short, um, what are we doing? And how are we coping with it? And what are we doing to challenge ourselves to expand that coping capacity through the mindfulness practices and tools and techniques that are so available to everybody? So now it's really not a matter of, um, I don't know how to do it. There's so much, you can't get it wrong, right? It's kind of like dancing. People are like, I don't know how to dance. Well, you know what? It's an expression of oneself. So you can't really get it wrong. Um, and I challenge people all the time, don't take my word for it. Try it. Um, I had somebody say to me the other day, when we were talking about last week, we're doing this, 4 breaths in deeply and then 4 breaths out, or the count of four, the count of four in, the count of four out, which I like to do 8 or 12 for me personally. But someone said to me the other day, they're like, I was up in the middle of the night and I actually did it. And you know what? It worked. I was like, of course it does. But you have to try it yourself. So, let's talk about, while we can talk about this for 3 hours, Brianna, but just for the participants, we really want to be able to provide you with some great practices that you can take immediately and change. And I want to say this, because I say this all the time, I promise you, when you change, everyone around you changes. So imagine you as a leader, whether it's a leader of a company, a leader of a team, a leader of a division, a leader of your family. When you change, everyone else changes around you. And that is the ultimate accountability test, right?
That's wonderful. Well, so let's talk about some of the ways that we can build mental resiliency, even in this current state, or I should say, especially in this current state. One of the ways is to revisit past experiences,
Oh, yeah.
taking a look at how they affected you, emotionally, mentally? Who did you reach out to for support during that time? And ultimately, how did you successfully work through that challenge or problem? By going back and looking at past experiences and how you overcame certain challenges and obstacles, it can help to give you the mental strength to get through a current challenge or current problem that you're being faced with. Reaching out for support is something that's so important, when you're having those moments or feeling down. Who is your system? Maybe it's at work, maybe it's at home, or friends or other colleagues in a different company, but who is that support system that you can bounce ideas off of and get creative with your solutions?
Yeah, I really love that because sometimes we forget that we really overcame a significant obstacle in our life, because we are not, again, it's that mindfulness muscle to discern how we're feeling, thinking, and acting compared to a quiet stillness state. And then that quiet stillness state, we can remember, oh, you know what? I forgot that I did that when that particular obstacle was going on in my life. And you may not know exactly what it is, but through that cognitive quiet space, which is breath work, meditation, your memory muscle almost becomes active again. And we begin to remember different experiences and how we handled things in the past. So I love that you've brought that in, and to reach out to people. I mean, we're now in this, again, this isn't social distancing, this is physical distancing. And how are we communicating and connecting with people? How are we responding and listening? This is a beautiful time for us to create different exercises in listening and communicating. Um, and really, I'm using the word exercise a lot today, but exercising the emotional intelligence muscle. Again, this is all mindfulness. Um, again, breath work, I probably on average, every 15 minutes, and I don't even know, I don't even count, but taking a deep breath in, pause, learning how to train my body to automatically, unconsciously take a deep breath in, pause, especially when I feel charged, especially when I have an anxious moment. Pause and tune into the body. Where are we feeling it, right? So this is an exercise that we do at Vacation of the Mind with our clients, is we teach them how to listen to our body intelligence and where in our body do we feel the anxiety. Some people feel it in their stomach, their chest. It could be in the back of the neck. It could be a headache. It could be tension in the fingers and the extremities. So where do we hold that tension in the body? And so I love that through the breathwork exercises that we do.
Well, and becoming aware of thoughts, feelings, emotions, how they're showing up for you, where they're showing up for you in the body is really that mindfulness exercise. It's the practice of learning how your body is reacting to things, how your thoughts are reacting to things. I give this example because it's something that all of us can relate to, right? But one of the best ways to start becoming aware of your thoughts, your emotions, and how maybe your thoughts are impacting your emotions or the rest of your body is when you wake up in the morning and you're standing in front of your bathroom mirror. What's the first thing you say to yourself? I remember when I was first becoming aware of my own thoughts, they were very negative. Let's be honest. I had a lot of negative thought patterns that were going on, and it was kind of scary in
Yeah.
the very beginning to become aware of those. And I remember, I'd go to the mirror and I'd say things like, oh man, those bags under your eyes, or geez, did you get enough sleep? Or look at those dark
Yeah.
circles, right? But that's really a negative thought that's now creating a negative emotion and setting you up for a day that you're just just going to continue down the path of those negative thoughts. Versus when you get up in the morning and you look at yourself in the mirror and you say, good morning, beautiful, I'm going to have an awesome day, or today is going to be productive and amazing. I feel it. That's a positive thought that's setting your body in motion for positive emotions and setting you up for a day where you can continue that positivity. And the bottom line is we do have control of our thoughts.
We do.
We absolutely 100% can direct and manage our thoughts and not allow them to direct and manage us. But it's through the practice of mindfulness where you're becoming aware of how your thoughts are actually showing up to the day, and how your emotions are being affected or your behaviors are being affected from those thoughts. That is the true practice where you're able to start shifting and making change.
I love that you said this, because I know that there's probably people on this call right now. They're going, what am I supposed to just do an affirmation like, oh, you look beautiful, or you're going to have a great day, when you really feel like crap, right? But I'm going to say this, fake it until you make it. You fake it, right? If you don't believe it, but you say it every day, I guarantee that you're going to start believing it. You're going to start seeing changes. And this is your own measurement to the litmus test that you're doing for yourself. And it's not easy. People, it is not easy. I've been meditating for over 20 years, and I still have to meditate every day. And if I miss it, I feel it, right? So it's like brushing our teeth or going to the bathroom or eating or drinking water. It needs to be done every single day. And so fake it till you make it. Say the things that you would want to say to someone that you love exponentially. Say it to yourself. And I'm going to even challenge you to not even get out of bed before you've said at least 2 or 3 minutes of kind, thoughtful, loving things to yourself. Makes a big difference.
Yes, it absolutely does. And, gratitude is also another science-based, it's actually proven through a lot of the research that they've done, is not necessarily keeping a gratitude journal. I mean, that's definitely one option, but even just the ability to show appreciation, even in your mind, for the things that you're thankful for, shifts your thoughts. It gets you into a state of happiness. It gets you into a positive emotional state and helps you to actually make change and create that mental resiliency. And so, it's not always about getting rid of the negative thoughts.
No, it just went off. Okay, it just went off. Okay, well, what Brianna is saying is that sometimes it's not, okay, well, she'll come back on. It's not that it's suddenly going to change negative thoughts, but it will override the negative thoughts. And, again, it's this mental muscle. And from my perspective, what has helped me the most isn't always that I'm sitting back going, I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for that. I like to actually put that into action and tell people why I'm grateful for them, right? I don't care if it's the person at the grocery store or it's somebody that is your team member, somebody whom you may have a little bit of a raw feeling with. We change. We change when we can see something kind in another person. We change when we can express that. One of the things, and I know that we're running a little bit behind because we wanted to do one thing, and we're going to send everybody here some notes that we've taken. There is a darkness technique that we use, and it resets negative thought patterns by stopping the negative thought patterns as they are happening and creating a mental resiliency by training the brain to create new ways of thinking. And so I know, Brianna, can you hear, are you back?
I'm back. Sorry about that.
I know that we have very little time, but I'd love for you to talk a little bit about the darkness technique, and then we'll end with a couple of couple of other really cool things before we leave, and we will leave on time, promise.
Yeah, so today our mindfulness exercise is this. I invite everybody to just close their eyes for a moment. Take a deep inhale through the nose and an exhale through the nose, breathing deeply into your abdomen. And now bring all of your attention and awareness to the darkness behind your closed eyelids. Focusing all of your attention and awareness to the darkness behind your closed eyelids there, the space between your eyebrows. Should a thought enter your mind, you can thank it for being there and then let it go, bringing your focus and awareness back to the darkness behind your closed eyelids. Just continue doing this for a few moments, focusing your attention and awareness. It's beautiful. You can bring your awareness back to the room, opening your eyes, coming back. That's a wonderful exercise to really shift and change the brain. So in moments that you're finding yourself being charged, you're finding negative thought patterns coming up, this is a great exercise to begin to shift and really change the neural pathways in your brain, telling them to stop going to the negative, just stop. And every time you do that, you're building mental resiliency.
Right. And how long do you think people should be doing that, Brianna?
Yeah, I tell our clients in the very beginning, start for 30 seconds at a time. You can even, set a timer on your phone so that your mind isn't wondering of how long it's been. And each time a thought comes in, you thank it for being there, push it to the side, because again, this is a mental exercise, just like a physical exercise is, of training the brain to stop those thought patterns and take a pause, take a reset, so that you can start creating new ones. So start for 15 to 30 seconds at a time and just practice that several times a day.
Yeah, that's great. So as we have 1 minute left, I just want to say one of the ways in which to overcome some of the mental, I think we have a question. Do we have a question?
Oh, let me look here. We do. Awesome.
Okay.
Oh, thank you and have a great day. Thank you too, Eric. You too.
Thank you. Is laughter. Laughter is such a contagious exercise that gets us out of our seriousness, gets us out of our fear, gets us out of our anxiety. Laughter is the quickest tool, I think, to getting out of the current mindset, mental mindset that is not beneficial for us. So find some time today, every day, to laugh. Whether it is finding a hilarious video or a funny movie. I know we watched Waterboy yesterday, which with Adam Sandler. I mean, talk about a funny movie. Slapstick, but we're laughing. And that is another beautiful way of building resiliency. So next week, we want to talk to you about, we're going to dive into some science. This is where both Brianna and I love talking about neuroscience and how it affects the body, how it affects the mind, talking about maybe a little bit of epigenetics. And we're going to bring in some ways in which you can increase your immune system. Is there anything else that you'd like to add, Brianna?
I just want to remind everything that, remind everyone that building mental resiliency, it takes practice. And the repetition of practicing some of these tools and techniques is what builds your resiliency. And so take time each day, build it into your routine, create new habits so that you can really train your brain to think, process, and react differently to situations and to have better coping with what we're going through.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely expands the coping capacity.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Lisa.
Okay.
We'll see you next week. Have a great day and a great week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.